Hello there, this is Alana Tuckey, and this is the lecture notes for section 3.5. All right, so the first thing we have to deal with is something called the 5-number summary. That is 5 numbers that summarize your data set really, really well. They do it really well for a variety of reasons, one of which is that they're resistant to a lot of the outliers. So you have your minimum, which is your lowest number, your Q1, that's your first quartile, i.e. your 25th percentile. Then your median, that's M, right? That's your second quartile or your 50th percentile, that's your median. Then Q3, which is your 75th percentile or your third quartile, same thing. And then your maximum. And the 3 central numbers, Q1, M, and Q3, are all really resistant to the outliers. Min and max, not so much, because those are the outliers generally, but the 3 inner ones are. And so these 5 numbers together show you the lowest to the highest, and they give you a sense of where the center is. They're a really great way of summarizing a data set, especially a skewed data set. All right, so I'm going to remind you with this first example how to do a whole bunch of stuff. This instructions for this originally said Excel or StatCrunch, but that was for the online students. So if you're a face-to-face student, you would use a calculator. If you're an online student, you use Excel. All right, and we are going to use these numbers right here. These are the test scores for 11 students in random students in an algebra class. All right, so I'm going to grab my calculator, go to Stat, Edit, and I'm going to type these numbers in. So it was 58, enter. There. It's so exciting to watch me type, I know. And you can tell that I have the right number of them in because the 11th one is 98, and there were 11 there in that table. All right, so then you go to Stat, go to the right to Calculate, pick number 1 variable stats. Now be careful. We're no longer doing a weighted mean, so you don't want a frequency list. So you want to clear out the frequency list if you're in the new operating system, which this is. So be very, 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 very careful. The only time we ever use frequency list ever is for the weighted mean. So if you're not doing a weighted mean in this course, you're not using frequency list. It does get used for some higher level stuff, but we're not going to deal with that. Okay, so I'm going to press calculate. And there's the mean, 86.7. Let's think, it wanted the standard deviation. That'd be 11.65. See right there? You don't want the sigma. Sigma is if this was a population, but it tells you this is a random group of students. All right? All right, so let's start typing these in. Hold on one second. There we go. All right, so I've got the mean is 86.7. The median was 89, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was just flat out 89. I'll double check that. I'll go down with my calculator to see it. There it is, 89. Then let's see, the mode, well, okay, we'll get to the mode in a second. But the standard deviation I can do. Standard deviation's about 11.65. Okay, don't forget you're using S here. This is a sample. All right, now the mode and the variance are the two that I've left blank so far. Well, that's because the calculator doesn't really find them. Mode you kind of have to do on your own. Figure out by looking, and it's 98 right here. It's the most frequent one. See that? 98. So that's all there's to that. And now the variance is S squared, right? So you'll take your calculator and you'll square 11.65. So you can do this a couple ways. You could say 11.65 squared, enter, and that'll be 135.7. Or you can use the VARs button, variables. Number 5 is statistics. There you go. And then number 3 is SX. That's the last standard deviation you memorized or had the calculator memorize. And then square that. And you can see it's a little bit different. The 135.8 is actually the more accurate one because this SX thing keeps all the decimal places. All right, so that's 135.8. Oops, 135. There we go. All right, so the calculator doesn't find the variance straight up. You'll have to find with the calculator, right? By squaring. Right, the calculator will find S, and then you've got to find the variance yourself. right? And then the calculator finds the S, but the calculator does not find the mode. You got to figure that out yourself as well. Okay. There we go. All right, so now what about the 5-number summary? So that's all review of stuff we've already learned. Now the 5-number summary is these 5 numbers, the min, Q1, the median, Q3, and the max, which is kind of obvious in this particular data set. But just in case you've forgotten, the calculator also finds them. They're the last 5 numbers that the list is giving to you right here. Min, Q1, median, Q3, max. Those last 5 numbers the calculator gives, that's the 5-number summary. Okay, so let me go back. Let me type those in. So the median we already said was 89. The min we said was 58. The max is 98. The median was 89. Q1 was 85, I think. And then Q3 is, oh, rats, I think 95. And I'll double check that. Let's see right here. Yep, 95, right there. All right, so we've got our 5-number summary. There it is. Calculator finds it all, right? Now the range, again, this is review. We've done this before. So the range, remember, is max minus min. That would be 98 minus 58. That would be 40 for this particular problem. There you go. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go back and box my answers. 1 second. There we go. That's a little bit clearer. All right, now what about the IQR? Well, the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. It's the range between the quartiles. Oops. There we go. All right, so how do we do that? Well, you already found your quartiles. And if not, your calculator found them. So you take 95, take away 85, which in this case makes 10. All right, so there's that. And then now how to find your fences. Well, we've already done that as well. So your lower fence, let me just do it this way, LF, that'll make sense. Lower fence, that's Q1 minus 1.5 IQR. Now don't forget your order of operations here. That's a big mistake that students make. So this is 85 take away, oh, I think it was 85, 1.5 times 10. So what a lot of students do is they'll do 85 take away 1.5. Yep, it was 85. 85 take away 1.5 and then times it by 10. But don't do that. Order of operations says you have to do multiplication first, right? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So you have to do 85 take away 15. You got to multiply first, which makes 60. Oh, 70, sorry, my fault. 70. There we go. There's your lower fence. All right, now what about the upper fence? Well, very similar, but not quite the same. The upper fence is Q3 plus 1.5 IQR. So plus. So that'd be 95 plus 15. Don't forget to multiply first, so make for the 15 first. And that makes 110. Not 100, there we go, 110. And there are your fences. Now all of that's review so far. We've done all of this already before, but it's good to be reminded of it all. All right, so we're done with that bit. There we go. Now let's look at the next bit, which is interpreting box plots, excuse me. So I'm not going to make you draw box plots by hand. I have the instructions here so you can kind of see what the box plots will look like. Excel does not make box plots. You have to use StatCrunch if you're going to make these with a computer, or Minitab, which is the program I'm using to make this box plot. Now this is the box plot of our test score data that we just saw right here. So you can see the maximum value is right over here where this little whisker, that's what these are called, whisker ends. So the maximum value is 98. Right? Now, what proportion of scores lie between 95 and 98? Well, 95 is right here where this box ends, and 98 is the end of that whisker. Now, don't forget what these numbers are, though. This was Q3, 95 was, and 98 was your max. So in each section of the box plot, it should be 25% because these are the quartiles. Basically, the first whisker is the first quarter of data, and then that line right there at the box begins, that's the first quartile. So it's marking off where the first quarter ends. And then the first portion of the box right here is the second quarter of data, and then the second quartile, which is this line right here, marks that section off. Then you have your third quarter right here on the right hand of the box, and the third quartile stops that and says, okay, that's the end of the third quarter of data. And then your last quarter is right here. So basically the whisker's worth a quarter, the first half of the box is worth a quarter, the second half of the box is worth a quarter, and the last whisker is worth a quarter. So what proportion should lie there? Well, 25%, because each section of the box is worth a quarter. All right, why is there a star on the left side? Because 58 is an outlier. Right? 58 is below the lower fence. We learned that earlier in section 3.4. All right, now to what number does the left whisker extend? Oh, that's interesting. All right, so your fence is 70. Right? So it can't be any number in your data set that's below 70. That's why the 58's a star, because the 58's below the 70. So what's the next number that's above 70? That's 74. So it has to go to 74. Here's 74, because that is the next number in the data set that is above the lower fence, right? It's not 70. The fence itself doesn't count. See, there's 70 right there. The whisker doesn't go to 70. That's where the fence is. But that's not where your whisker goes to. Your whisker goes to the next number that's within that fence. 58's beyond the fence, so that's why he gets a star. 74 is within the fence, so the whisker goes to that. All right. Now let's see what we got going on here, which is just, I wanted you to see that you can draw box plots vertically as well. This is the exact same box plot as this. It's just drawn vertically instead of horizontally. It's still the same box plot. There's the 58 down here and so on. And then I wanted you to see that Minitab does a really good job, but this is what StatCrunch does. And the 58 is kind of hard to see. It's this little tiny, tiny dot over there. So just notice how difficult that is to see. All right, now what about shape? Actually, we're kind of running low on time, so let's pause right here, and I'll pick up with how to tell shape of your distribution in the next video. See you then.